Kia ora koutou. Can you all hear me? Awesome. Kia ora koutou and welcome everyone. We're delighted to have you all join us for the second module of the Leadership Mastery Program. My name is Jade Tang Taylor and unfortunately Sarah can't join us today. So please bear with me as the new technical coordinator for today. Before we introduce, I pass you on to Louise, I'd just like to run a few housekeeping things and just remind you all of what we did last session, because there's a few new people joining us today. So we set up the webinar with all the participants on mute when they enter, and when you go into the breakout rooms, you'll need to hit unmute. So we'll be doing 2 breakout sessions later on today, and you'll just a reminder if you can't hear each other. And you'll find the mute controls in the taskbar at the bottom of your screen on the left-hand side. If you have any questions during the session, please type them in the chat area. You'll see the chat down, again, chat dialogue icon. And I'll be monitoring questions for Louise and gather these so that we can answer them all together at the end of the session. There will also be an opportunity to ask live questions at the end. To ask a live question at the end, just raise your hand, and you can do that when you'll see down the bottom, manage participants, and you can go over to the right-hand side and you'll see raise hand there. If you have any questions, just send me a message and I'm sure we can work through it together. So like I said before, we'll be going into 2 breakout rooms this session, and you'll have an invitation to join. Click the invitation and it's pretty straightforward. Then we will, when you are in that separate room, it won't be recorded. You'll have private conversations with your other partner wherever they are in the world, and just remember to unmute. And then when there's 1 minute to go, you'll get a notification, and then we'll all come back to the main room and everything will be recorded as well. So I recommend, Louise has lots of Louiseisms, as we say, Louiseisms. And so just remember to have a pen and paper beside you because she asks a lot of questions and sometimes it's hard to catch them all. We're saying that, we will also be recording the session, so you don't have to record it yourself, and we'll be sending out all the resources tomorrow. Last but not least, we're very keen for your feedback, so we'll send through a bit of a survey, and also there's a Facebook group as well. We encourage you all to share and cultivate collective wisdom throughout the Leadership Mastery Program and journey moving forward. And as I mentioned before, finally, not everyone will be online with us today due to time zone challenges. And so some participants who can't make it will be joining us and reviewing the recordings a bit later. So without further ado, you're not here to see me, you're here to see Louise. And let me see if I can pass you over to her. We'll start the session very soon. 3, 2, 1.
Great. Wow. Hi, everyone. It's fantastic to see.
There you go.
Okay. Looks like I'm still muted. Sorry, we're just kind of getting there. Is it? Can people hear me? Okay, now it looks like I'm unmuted. Great. So hopefully now everyone can hear. There's a little echo, which we're going to sort out. Just give us a moment. Sorry about that. Okay, so hopefully everyone can hear me now. And I was saying it's great to have everybody back again and fantastic to get the feedback. And I was saying one of my most undefined moments in my leadership was hiring somebody, them lasting a day, going out for lunch on the second day, and they never came back. So that's kind of the way not to overwhelm people in the first day and a half of their jobs. So today we are going to run a similar sort of format. We'll see how the flow goes, but we'll do some input, some meditation, some peer work, some Q&A, some experiences. So a similar sort of recipe, and how we kind of put those together. We'll just see how the flow goes. Yeah, so just as we start, I'd really like you to just kind of presence yourself to yourself. This is what we did last time. And if you can, just as you arrive, as honestly as you can, just maybe put in one word in the chat so we can have a look at how people are arriving into this session. Just take a moment and just think, what's your one or two words, doesn't have to be, but what would describe your inner state as you arrive here? It's a lot of echo. Great, beautiful to see those words coming in. And let's really give some time to arrive now, and then we'll come back to this. So keep putting that in if you like. But let's just give a bit of time to fully arrive. Not that you haven't, but for those who haven't. So maybe just close your eyes. And this is often what we don't do in meetings. We just don't give people the chance to arrive. So they're still half here. So really feel what it's like to arrive in your body on the chair. And just feel what the state of your body is in this moment. Like how is the general feeling of it? And just kind of do a quick body scan and go, yeah, here's how my body feels in this moment. And what are you aware of that might need some digestion time? So some are at different stages of their day, I know, but what's sitting with you that you think, I really need to have some processing time on that. It's still kind of rumoring around in me. What's on top for you? Is there any emotion present? What's happening in your emotional field? Can you presence that? And is there kind of anything kind of gnawing, or is there anything else that is just maybe bothering you? And is there anything kind of calling? It's often the soul part of us. It's always yearning or longing for something, more time, more space, more. We could go on to a whole lot of things, but what might be in your longing, in your desire? Might be more intimacy, might be, it's just presence, that layer. And then just really feel, what's just the truth for you in this moment, because we're going to presence to another person now, just how you arrive. So we've practiced our inner selfie, what's happening, and we're just going to take 2.5 minutes to presence to another person in pairs, just to give some digestion time. Because remember I was saying this is just such an important competency from last time, that we're going to keep trying to build that by the way we run the sessions as well. So we're going to go in 2.5 minutes each, and we'll tell you when to swap over. And remember, the listener just receives with appreciation. And just feel you can talk about any of the things just in that small presencing. What's there, what's on top, what needs digestion, what doesn't, what's calling, anything that you wish to with that in that pair session. And yeah, we'll see you in 5 minutes. I think people are still coming back.
Yeah, they'll be like a minute because they take a minute to come back.
Oh, yeah. Just give people a little time to come back. Yeah. Okay, so let's just do a quick again. Like, I know I can be annoying. Someone said to me the other day, if you're not annoying, you're not really doing your job. So, but just feel again, how different do you feel having presence to yourself and presence to another? Like, does it feel different? It may or may not, but just check in and go, do you have a feeling of a little bit more space? This inner space is becoming such an important competency, especially with the world becoming so pressured and overwhelmed. Hey, the ability to have some inner space. And you know how we often think we've got no time and space, but often we do, but we're so busy in our head that we have no real space. So being able to kind of presence can often feel a bit more spacious. So just check in with that, and we'll come back to that. So let's kind of dive in for today. Last time we kind of covered presencing, inner selfies, digesting, processing, inquiry. Inner compassion is a real basis for all of that, and this kind of saying yes to life, hey, and working with what is. And I really want to deepen all of that and go into some new competencies and really think about what would it feel like, and what does it feel like now that you really thought you're in the school of learning for life, not in the getting it right school. Like, what might it feel like if you really felt into that you are a lifelong learner, this learning, adapting, growing, changing, rather than getting it right. They've got such different energies to me. Hey, one's about like, oh, like get it right, and it makes us contract, and the other helps us kind of expand. So today we're kind of going to work with that a little bit. We're going to also worked with this yes for life, which means yes to the learning of life, but we're also going to work with our no. So we're going to work a bit with the competencies of yes and no. And I think it was Pythagoras that said yes and no are the most simple words in any language, and therefore the most difficult. So we're going to sort of open that a little bit. I want to work with congruence. I want to work with emotions as wisdom. So if we're going to say yes to learning, how do we work in the emotional realm, which I think is one of the most difficult ones in our time. that's kind of, we've lost this sort of literacy for. So we're going to have a bit of a peruse about that. And our needs. Often, and there's just beautiful stuff all written about this, hey, you know, the nonviolent communication, about what's our relationship with our real needs. Because if we don't know them, we often can live with disappointment because we think other people should know them. And we're not getting them met because we're not really saying what they are, and yet we can often have the expectation of others, bosses, staff, that they're meeting them. So all of this can get very entangled in this space. So these are the things we're going to work with today. And I just want to say a few things first about why. Why do all of these sorts of competencies matter? Like, why do I spend my life really helping people hone these more subtle kind of competencies? And to me, hey, there's so much in life and communities in the workplace where we're always practicing anyway. We're practicing something, whether it's conscious or unconscious. So we're often unconsciously practicing a whole lot of old patterns that you're still practicing that actually don't serve you anymore. And so this thing of becoming conscious and being able to start practicing new things, and all of these competencies that I work with, to me, are natural abilities you all have. But because we can spend a lot of time practicing self-doubt, lack of worth, and all of these come from real places, I'm not saying that, but we practice them over and over again, overwhelm. It's trying to actually bring out some of these other natural capacities and practice new things in a much more conscious way. And I do believe that the world needs a lot more consciousness. Workplaces need a lot more consciousness, and awareness is one of our biggest tools we have as a human being. Our being awake to life, being able to enjoy it, know what's happening in me, what's happening out of me, what beauty I can see, what challenges. Hey, this all requires a level of consciousness and awakeness. And can we see the patterns in our organization that we all collude with? I love that word, collusion, and we do it all the time, hey. And it's one of the things that stops us saying our yes and no, because I want to collude with just keeping you happy and keeping the boss happy, or keeping this person happy, or keeping, you know what I mean? So then there's not enough truth in the system. So I have such a passion for bringing truth into the system so that this whole system becomes a much more kind of self-healing mechanism in a way that everyone can bring their best. So this is sort of part of the why for me, is that we constantly walk to wake up. We keep waking up. We keep becoming more conscious of what we're practicing and what else we can kind of practice. And I know people who've worked with me, I say a lot, there's a lot of meetings and no one meeting. Hey, so just have a think now in your day. Were there meetings you had that people didn't really meet? Like, you didn't really meet. There wasn't a real meeting of a human being to another. There wasn't a real inspiration that came to fuel. Like, can you see when in the beautiful you know, Pacific philosophies, and in Māori as well, the wā te wā, we get so entangled in the space with this kind of lack of meeting. So that's kind of the why for me. And also, if we're always digesting the last meeting, we're not present for the next one. So that's why this digestion becomes so important, so that we can bring our fullest potential. It's all about full potential, really, that you can be this big expression of yourself. And that's, again, that our intent around the fullest expression of you, not the right version of you. So this kind of ditching of the getting it right syndrome to the school of learning, where you're learning to be more and more an expression of who you are. It can be a delicious journey. So today, yes, the competencies we're going to work with, hey, like, we'll just sort of dive in, I think. So this authenticity, in a way, in this learning school, it's not about presencing yourself. Isn't trying to presence the most perfect thing. It's actually trying to presence the real, the truth, the authenticity. So authenticity is a word we love, and it's a great word, hey, but it happens over time, but it also happens in the moment. Can I be real and vulnerable in this moment? And some you can't. Some you can't. I agree. Some are totally unsafe. But I feel like our kind of risk manager inside ourselves judges way too many situations to be unsafe than what they actually are. So practicing this, and it takes one person to bring this truth into the room, and it's in the room. And I don't know about you, but I really notice when people are speaking their truth, there's often a silence, there's a weight, there's kind of a mana. Hey, there's something beautiful. I can just always feel it. And this is what engenders trust. So the congruence, this is, you know, another big competency that you all have that we can practice, is again, does my energy, my words, my actions say the same thing? Or am I in full no and I'm going, yes, I'll do that? And sometimes we can, of course that can happen. Like sometimes I don't want to get up and cook dinner. I'm in a no, but yes, I'll cook it because I've got children who are hungry. That's a different thing in a way. We can presence both of those things. But hey, like, oh, but here I go. But often we're at these different levels where we're disaggregated, and different parts of us are saying different things. So really starting to think about, how can I be congruent in this moment? How can I practice that? Questioning, is it safe or not? But really questioning that. And of course the inner selfies, all of that's needed to do that. You need to know what's happening in you in order to presence it. If you don't know what's happening in you, you can't really presence that to another person. So these are how we've ended up with so much, you know, in some ways untruth in the whole system of life, because this isn't being practiced very much. And I kind of want to go further into this yes and no, because it does depend a bit on our ability and relationship with both this yes and this no. And a beautiful writer and speaker, William Ury, he's a Harvard big world negotiator working on South Korea and massive things. He talks about a deep yes, a no, and a yes. And it's like a tree. And the yes is the roots of the tree. And the no is the trunk. And the yes are the branches. So it's like a sandwich, a yes-no sandwich. Let's unpick that a little bit. The deep yes, the delicious yes, is kind of it's kind of like our deep values. It's what we stand for, what feels really right for us and what doesn't feel right. It's really the base of our being in a way. So knowing when things feel right and don't. And I bet all of you, because I certainly have, think, why did I do that? I knew not to do that. I knew. See if you can think of a moment just now of when that happened recently. We override. And we override because we know, and then our relationship with the no, the next thing, our delicious yes, enables us to say, no, that doesn't feel right for me. No, that doesn't, no, I can't do that right now. No, and of course, as I say, when we've got kids and things like that, it's, or danger or whatever's there. But if we're in the habit of always saying yes and not really being also allowed our no, and I don't mean no to what's coming for you to learn, that's where the big yes is. But no in terms of your boundary around something that's important to you. And I live on Waiheke, so I caught the ferry here, and there was a kid on the next to me going, no, no, and the mother was telling him off. And I thought, we haven't got a literacy for a really clean and powerful no, because no one likes no. Parents, teachers, do you know what I mean? But man, you get teenage children, you want them to have a no, hey? But if we haven't taught them a literacy for this no, and then we end up in the workplace, and I think that's often when we can get a lot of overwork, overwhelmed, because we can't really say our clear no, even if it's to ourselves. And then the top yes is like, okay, if that's a no, what is it we need? What's your need? No, I can't do this now. I've got too much going on, but I need to actually go away right now, but I'll come back to this. We can have simple needs. Well, actually, I'm so confused by what needs to happen right now that I need to go and have some space, or actually I need some support. I don't really know, or I need to brainstorm, or do you know what I mean? Like, it can be simple and it can be profound in a relationship. Like, I really need some more presence and listening from you. So this kind of congruence, this beautiful image of the tree, the yes, no, yes, and this needs, hey, they sound simple, and it's a lifelong journey to come into this very clean place with it all. And not to judge anything or yourself, because as I say, our upbringing often, well, certainly my generation, and I know there's younger generation here as well, but we weren't really taught to be in touch with this inner GPS. We weren't really be in touch with our deep yes, to set our no, to say our needs. So that feels quite a lot for now. Let's just pause and do a little meditation with that. And then I'll say a little bit more before we go into another process. But let's practice what we're learning and practice some digestion time. So again, just close your eyes. You don't ever have to close your eyes, but it actually just helps you bring you into your inner being. And again, just feel your body. Feel the experience of what we've just talked about land. I think it's quite an important thing that experience of life is meant to go down into our body, not up into our head. So let's just feel that you can feel all this kind of information in a way land in your beautiful bodies that can help you digest. Just imagine that the felt sense for now goes right down into your feet, and where your feet touch the earth. And then just ask some questions, hey, like, how does your delicious yes feel like in your body? If you really feel, yes, this is such a yes for me, what does that feel like in your body? Don't worry if you don't get anything, but just see if you can feel any subtle energy expansion. What does it feel like for you? And now, and you might feel this different, what does a real no feel like in your body? What does no? This doesn't feel good, and it's a clean no. We get a lot of murky no's. This isn't right for me. And I'm just going to ask some inquiry questions, but what's your relationship with yes and no? Which do you find easier? Which do you find more difficult? And who with and where? It's different. Sometimes I find it easy to say no to our partners and hard at work, or vice versa. And are you allowed your needs in life? I think needs are very sacred. I'm so afraid of being needy. But our needs help us grow. Do you see them as your strength or a weakness? And where do you speak them? And do you have kind of a workplace that cares, or a community? And does your community or workplace have a yes and no? Organisations have a relationship with yes and no. Organisations that say yes to doing everything can overheat, overfry everybody. Is there a healthy balance? And how do you, or where do you feel the most congruent, that you're most authentic? Where does your sort of energy, words, actions say the same thing? There's some flow. How easy is it for you to speak your truth? And again, I'm not talking about really unsafe situations, but think about it. How often do you judge a situation to be unsafe? Just take the time to digest anything that's happening and note down anything you want to. Just let the experience of yourself in this inquiry go down. Land. And then just feel if there's an emotion present. Just in this moment, let's welcome that in. Let's not resist. Everything in the learning school of life has wisdom. Emotions have wisdom. Let's just welcome it in and feel that you can presence that. We welcome it. Whether it's pressure or overwhelm or joy or excitement or fear, anger, let's welcome it in. Give it space. Because all of this questioning, of course, it's on one level could be really emotional. Just imagine we're not trying to, where does that feel in your body, that emotion? We're not trying to get rid of it. We're letting it be there. Where is it in your body? And the rest of you can expand around it. We don't need to contract. Let's just ask in this moment if there's any wisdom in that emotion for you. What might it want to say? It may not, it may. And then just feel those beautiful bodies again. Our bodies are amazing. That's what we're going to talk about next time. Take a few breaths and we'll come back. Before we go into another pair, just to process any of that, I just want to say a bit about the emotions, because I think there's so much fear around because we've stopped being able to feel these emotions through our body, and we're all trying to feel it through our head, which it isn't built to do. And in my perfect world, I would so love that we went around going, "Hi Jade, how are you doing?" And she'd go, "Oh, I'm doing anger. It's really tricky. It's big and it's grunty and it's hard. What are you doing?" "Ah, I'm doing jealousy. Man, that feels really sticky." And we're all doing something and we don't talk about it. And so then we don't get a literacy. We don't bring up our children to have a literacy for these emotions. And so more and more overwhelm. So it's such an important thing to start to turn on your feeling function and to just slowly go, what does fear feel like in my body? What does anger feel like in my body? If we don't wrong them, they're all sensations in the body. And if some feel too big, we can get some help. I don't believe we're meant to feel the big emotions on our own. And the magic of a human being is we can actually feel them together. Two nervous systems can feel one feeling much better than one. But really thinking now, what emotions do I hate and what do I resist, and what can I start? So in this, again, this learning school of life, emotions have intelligence, and some of them feel to become quite like okay with how they feel in our body. And just imagine now if you didn't fear any emotion, how different would that be? Shame, there's shame. I feel shame about that. You could name it. Fear, anger, jealousy, competition, they're all there. Joy, excitement. Yeah, so these are, as I say, natural things you have. And we've just often practiced one set of skills, habits, and this is really about practicing these competencies to get really more and more able to work with them, and more joy comes the more we be able to work in with these. But let's just pause there because that's a lot, and let's go into pairs again, and just have a quick look at my notes. What I'd love is for you each to have, what is the time? 6:45. Yeah, let's have 7 minutes each. So a reasonable amount of time. And I want you to, again, presence as much as you like, okay? But there's you know, there's a reasonable safety in this group. But presence your relationship with your yes and no, your needs, your level of congruence, and maybe your emotions and which ones you find difficult or not. Or anything else really, anything that occurred to you that you need some presencing time. Remember, the one listening, you're only being present, appreciative, really holding space for this person as a witness. It's such a healing thing to do. So let's send you off, and I'll see you in about 15 minutes. Is that going? Can people hear me? Okay, great, perfect. Thanks to those who nodded. Oh, we've got a few seconds to go. Let me know when everyone's back, Jade. Okay, everyone's back. Woohoo. So I think we might just see if there's any questions, either live or written. Yeah, let's see if there's any questions or anything anyone wants to share, any experience. And I'm looking. I saw one, this confusion and emotion. Yes, hey, like in a way, it's a confusion, so is numbness, or oh, I'm just not clear. It's kind of presencing whatever's there, really. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff being born out of people who didn't know, who didn't think they knew. Yeah, any questions? Or I will say a few more things. Does anyone want to come on live? How does a yes person work on their relationship with no? Yeah, there's so many kind of layers to this, hey, I know. And remember, we're in the spirit of experimentation and inquiry. And because sometimes we have a kind of like a terrified yes in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes I say yes because I'm like, oh, this is terrifying. So but it's kind of got an exhilaration. So we kind of need to start to think about where our yes comes from. And I think if we really value that we are part of the system, we are a sacred part of the system, and how we value ourselves, and the deeper we go, the easier it becomes to say no, is one way of answering that question. But another way is practice saying yes and. With people who have problems saying no, practice saying yes and. It's just a really simple little tool. Yes, I can do that, and I can't really do that for the next few days. Or yes, I can do that, and I can't. It's a safe way of practicing our no. Or yes, I might be able to consider that, but not this year. Or, you know, in some ways it buys us a little bit of time if we just habitually say yes. And it's the same for people who habitually say no, because sometimes our no can just be no, resistance, and we're resisting life. That's why the underlying thing is yes to life and the learning. Hey, is that people can say no and, well, no, I don't want to do that, and I might consider later. So, so that's just a little tool, but it's really, I think the more profound thing is just taking a pause and thinking, what's really going on here? And often if there's kind of fear present, or I need you to like me, you can go, do I want to keep practicing that? Do I want to keep practicing that? And it's really controversial, hey, because I work a lot in the area of wicked problems and as well. But the energy of wanting someone to like you or wanting to help a person isn't the most transformative energy. And remember, your energy does a lot of work for you. And I love that quote that I'm not going to get entirely right, that says, if you've come here to help me, and it was by, I think it was a American Indian, but if you've come here to help me, there's nothing, leave. But if you've come here to learn with me, then please stay, and we've got some business to do together. So sometimes helping someone can leave ourselves out, and then who's helping? Like, there's always two in a relationship. So I think it is a really deep inquiry, but that's a little tool, is practice that. A pause can give you so much. And you often don't need to make decisions in the moment. People are always hurrying for a decision now, but often we can take a bit of time, because the nowness leads to the busy highway that everyone then gets overwhelmed and fried, and what are we adding to? So yes, great questions. Hey, how do we deal with the consequences of no, for instance, negative feedback from others? Yes, again, hey, there's no easy answer for this. I think this experimentation and practicing is so important around, do I just fear negativity, or do I really get it? Hey, like, I know if I say no in a respectful way, that's personal. I just can't do that right now. There's something going on, or it's, most people naturally do have empathy. There are 10%, or I can't remember, maybe it's 12, who have none. So I just think it's practicing. And the negative feedback from others often, of course, says more about them than you, but this is where we get entangled, and really learning that if someone gives you negative feedback, you don't have to give yourself it. So how do we not interject other people's negative feedback? And you can say, all honesty, I'm just learning to set some boundaries. I'm sorry, but it's really important for me because I've been struggling. Do you know what I mean? Like, the more honest we can, the more empathy rises in the whole system. And the more people can show up, and the better they can be at work, and the better they can be in their life. So I would be kind of working on our own relationship with negativity. How do we, it's a projection. We hate negativity because I'm negative enough about myself. I don't need any more from you. So if negativity really activates you, then it's time to be in relationship with that in a different way, and to look at how full of it you are yourself, and how you can start to reframe that. It's hard to talk about how we feel at work. How can we get around that? It is so hard to talk about how we feel at work, isn't it? And people go, we don't care how you feel, just get on with the work. We've got much mahi to do, just get on with it. And why does all this matter in leadership in a way? Hey, is that if you think about all the issues you have mainly sleepless nights about at work, they tend to all be relational. It's the relational entanglements that take so much energy from the work in a way. So I kind of remember an amazing thing in my career at a board table. This man started thumping the table. We don't want any emotions at the board table, screaming and yelling and thumping the table. It's like, well, it's here. So how do we deal with that at work? I think like not having the literacy, it shows up at work all the time, hey? But I think it's a good thing to be asking teams, well, how do you all feel about that? Does it feel the right way? What's everyone's felt sense? You know, the head's very mouthy, always wants to have it say, hey, and it does. But what's people's felt sense? And helping people kind of access that in a way. I don't think at work we're there to process emotions with each other all the time, but we're certainly there to support them in a way, like, because they're there in the room anyway. Hey, and I think, I mean, I really enjoyed operating in that way. It feels like there's anger in the room. Is someone angry? Could we work with that? If we don't fear them, we just can start to work with it because it's showing up in the system. Anger's an emotion that's trying to move forward. Anger's trying to, if we don't discharge it, it's trying to break open a status quo. So all of these things have wisdom in the workplace as well. And I think it is a bit of an art of how to work with them. But I would start practicing. What does everyone feel? What's their felt sense? How do you feel about your job? A person leaves their job. A good person will leave their job because of how they feel at work. Mostly. Their level of engagement, it's all a felt sense, it's a belonging. So it's all at play. So starting to just have these conversations, I think, becomes really important, hey? And share, of course, it's the hardest to do with power. Hey, like that's the hardest, is to share that with power. But sometimes we can practice that too. Are you aware that this is the impact that you can have on the team and on me? Are you aware of that? Here's how I feel about that. Are you interested? These are all brave experiments, and of course you need to decide whether it's safe enough to do that. I'm not saying not. What's the time? 7:12. That's a good question. Incongruence between life and work. Wow. That's a biggie, hey. That's a really good question. All of them are great questions, but just let's ask everyone, how congruent do you feel your work is to your life? And I heard a beautiful thing today that said, when you are really intimate with your work and it feels your purpose, it's a resource for you. So I think, again, a huge inquiry around if you have to be a totally different person at work than who you feel you are, I think that does become a problem. And of course we need to do that for a while, but you do want to be in seeking and planning, I guess, for something that's going to feel more like it uses your gifts and expression of who you really are. Otherwise it's exhausting. It's an exhausting situation, I think. So if life's coming through me and then I'm shutting it down in order to just be in this place, of course we need to do that if we're providing, but I would still be trying to practice as much as I can all these competencies, because they'll help so much. But yeah, I think if that becomes too much of a disconnect, that's a really important soul-searching time to think about what our purpose is, what our relationship with our purpose is. Had a lack of emotion, somewhat indifferent. That's cool too, hey. So this is that found during the second meditation, there wasn't an emotion. Blankness is an emotion. Blankness is important too. I'm blank right now. I can't access anything. I'm not. It's just blank. So again, it's not really wronging anything. Yeah, that is presence blank. I can't feel anything right now. And it's quite interesting, this whole feeling thing, and we'll keep talking about it, but some of what you feel isn't you. Some of what you feel in a room is what's happening in the room. People who are sensitive, this is their biggest gift. Some of what you feel with another person isn't necessarily you. So really starting to work out, what's me, what's not me. So yes, blankness is just something to welcome in. I'm just blank at the moment. Let that be. Yeah, I think, what about people who've had a hard time saying that deep yes or yes to their own needs? Just start. Life starts with one step. Like, start checking in with yourself. Like, what are my needs today? I kind of have quite a big contemplation in the morning, early in the morning, where I go, what's my need today? And sometimes my need is to be curious. I want to do something new. Sometimes it's to be active, so I want to get out. Sometimes it's to be curl up and, and you can't always do that, of course, but you could still honor that in some way or other by just acknowledging it. And in meetings, if you're feeling more vulnerable, you may be less obvious. You may be less out. This living life in congruence is each day there's a new flavor. I kind of see your life as a piece of art. Each day is a brushstroke. Don't try and live one brushstroke and at the end there's just one brushstroke on the painting that you've tried to fit in. It's like, today I'm vulnerable. I need to take care of myself differently. Today I'm exhausted. How can I conserve some energy? Today I'm curious. Today I want some fun. How do I go out? I want to email, find someone to have some, what really presents what's happening to you each day as well, and how you might just honor that in one small way. So a deep yes to your own needs. I would just think, what could I start small? I love experimentation and prototyping, right from a company strategy to our own living strategy. How could I take a small risk to learn what works and fails for me? Who's someone who could take that with? I'd really journal about it. What do I really need? I think it's a profound question. I would challenge everyone that we don't really know all our needs. Hey, so yeah, we have needs of belonging, we have needs of intimacy, we have needs of being seen, we have needs of being valued, we have needs of meaningful work, we have needs of contributing to people in life, we have needs of connection with nature. Hey, so how do we just start even with one of those? And I think all of these competencies, feel what resonates and which ones you want to practice and what calls to you. But remember, I started like awareness is so your friend. Hey, just take as many pauses as you can to think, how could I practice something different in this moment? How could I practice? And I really want you just to consider having this life of being in the learning school, not the getting it right school. So we're always integrating. I can integrate my relationship with fear differently, my relationship with negativity differently over time. And then this experimenting, let's just practice and give it a go. It just revolutionized my life, having a life of prototyping. And then there's 100% responsibility. I'll talk next time, but I think we are 100% responsible. To me means you're responsible for bringing you into the world for your full potential. Of course, you're responsible for getting the support you need. You're responsible for getting to know yourself and what your needs are. You're responsible for getting to know your yes and no. You're responsible for the energy you bring into a room. You're responsible for processing and digesting. No one else will be. In your body, you're the only one who will do this. We're responsible for our mental, physical well-being, spiritual well-being. So we'll talk a bit more about this, but it's so empowering when we take life as it's learning, whatever it brings us, into refining, so we can be of more service to the world. Hey, but we're included in our service because we're not separate. We're part of the whole system. It's like tato, not koto, and in the reo, our language here, it's like include yourself. So yes, the present scene is such a big part of it, but it doesn't mean you can't practice some of the other things as well. Yes, so I think we're finishing, but let's just pause and presence again how everything lands for you. Just take that pause. What's in your body? What's in your emotional field? What's your mind doing? Yeah. And it would be great if you can write us another word of how you end this session, and then I'm going to go over the homework or the IAP, and yeah, we'll finish on time. But I'd love to just hear 1 or 2 words, or 3 or 4. What's how you leave the session. So much as, hey, are we willing to look, are we willing to experience, experiment? Beautiful. And remember, compassion is your friend. You're not hunting yourself down to make yourself better. You're expanding and learning and loving all the bits of yourself. Love. I think we started using the word empathy because we didn't want to use the word love anymore. So it's such an important thing that we grow our love for this amazing part of the earth we are, the vitality of the system that we are. And then that brings so much into a room. It's a healing energy, actually, that comes with us into the room. Okay, so the IAP, I don't know how that went last time. Love to get your feedback, but remember, it's just inquiry, action, practice. These suggestions. Don't make it another pressure for yourself. Whatever you've taken out of here, practice that. But the inquiry is really some of what we did about just questions of working with your emotions, which ones you find easy, what hard, how do you feel about your real needs at work and at home? Do you know them? Can you say them? What's the quality of the conversations you have with yourself? These are the inquiry questions. Like, is it kind? Is it tenderly curious? There's something about congruence, and then your relationship with this yes and no, and just really watching it. Is that a real yes for me? Could I say no and, or yes and? And then the actions are there around, deepening a conversation by asking how someone feels rather than what they think. You can try that at work. That's just a simple thing. Sharing a bit more vulnerability, kind of changing a pattern. This is what we're talking about, being conscious. If you talk a lot, try a bit of a word diet, say less for a week, see what happens. If you don't talk a lot, try bringing a little bit more of yourself. We're just practicing and experimenting. If you do a lot of telling, try asking questions for a week. So give yourself some different food. It's like food. If we eat the same food every day, hey, sometimes we can feel like something different. Checking in each day on how you start the day. Like I said, what's present for you? What might you need that day? How could you meet it? Great to do a meditation, and we'll send one. I did send one with the pre-Christmas package, but we'll resend one that you can just start practicing every day, because it's such a power tool, and it'll include an emotional welcoming in the emotions. But I think I'll send a different one than the one we did today, so it's a bit shorter, clearer, and just simpler. And then the practices, again, digestion from last time, checking in with that feeling, emotional realm, what's present, can I welcome it in, what wisdom does it have for me? Practicing the congruent conversations, and keep practicing that inner selfie all the time. And also at work, practice focusing on the relationship, not just the task, and the relationships in the room. Of course, a lot of you will do this, but just maybe practice at your own learning edge with that. And because we're always managing for more outcomes than just the tasks to be done, because you want next year's tasks to be done, which means you have to, it's relational goodwill that sets all of these up. So those are there. Really look forward to any feedback, anything you want more of, less of. And I'd love just to read a poem before Jade comes on and tells you the last things. And you'll know it, probably. It's by Rumi, so 6th century, called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honourably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So it's just an offering. We'll put that up on the website. This isn't new stuff, as I said. He was 6th century. It's inherent. We've just forgotten. So we're remembering ourselves. So, beautiful. Thank you everyone for coming. Much love to all. Treat yourselves beautifully with love this next few weeks.
Wow. What a wonderful session. Some chats. Some gratitude already in the chat bar. Here is my wonderful, delicious yes, no, and deep yes tree that I've illustrated here, that I feel that often I have to remind myself of. But yes, echo Louise's sentiments around thank you so much for being here. Huge thank you to Louise. And for those questions that we didn't quite get around to today, we will incorporate them into the next course content, and please send through any other questions that you might have to hello@leadershipmastery.nz. But our next session will be in 3 weeks' time on the 6th of March at 6 p.m. And you'll receive a link to today's recording session, homework IAP, and link to the journaling, reading and meditation over the next 24 hours. And we'll also send you a Zoom link and a reminder ahead of the next session. So don't worry too much about that. As well as some feedback. We always love some constructive feedback. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. I hope you have an incredible week or weeks ahead. And yeah, kia ora. Signing out. Somehow.